Why do societies self-destruct? A quote by William Durant, who is an American historian and philosopher, he said, "A great civilization is not conquered from without until it has destroyed itself from within." Today, as most of us can see, observe around, that most societies of the world, they are actually self-destroying themselves, and they are destroying themselves from within. There are no external forces ever powerful enough to destroy anything that is internally strong. Historians cite various reasons why complex and mighty civilizations and cities of our past, they fell or collapsed. Most had to do with internal decline or decay. Often an internal weakness led them to succumb, and not external factors such as an invasion. What is making many of our modern societies especially vulnerable and self-destructive? And why did some of our past societies that failed or declined, they failed to see the mess that they were getting into before their downfall? One could have thought that some of the signs must have been pretty obvious. Now take the Chinese Empire, for example. Under the Ming Dynasty, they had the most dazzling accomplishments. The vast empire had a centralized government which was presided over by the emperor of the Ming Dynasty, and it was run by a very highly cultivated elite, and it was guided by the political philosophy of Confucianism. They had created magnificent works of literature, music, architecture, painting, and sculpture. They traded extensively throughout East, Southeast, and Central Asia. And they were the first to invent paper, money, gunpowder, porcelain, and printing. They were a global maritime power between 1400 and 1433, way before the Europeans, and yet the Ming Dynasty, they retreated from the brink of becoming a global power. Not only were their sophisticated naval expeditions discontinued, but also the emperor, they forbade any further construction of ocean-going ships. They could have easily occupied or invaded Europe if they wanted to. Instead, they became defensive, and they wanted to protect themselves from the rest of the world infiltrating what they had achieved. Now, if you're interested in exploring further about the decline of the Ming dynasties and other great civilizations of our past, a good start would be the book Rise and Fall of Civilisations by W.R. Nestor. I will share the link below. Now, in the case of the Athenian Empire, an English historian by the name of Edward Gibbon, he had written in his book, he said, in the end, more than freedom, the Athenians wanted security. They wanted a comfortable life, and they lost it all. They wanted security, they wanted freedom, they wanted comfort. When the Athenians finally, they wanted not to give to society, but rather was wanting society to give to them, they started decaying as a society. When the freedom they wished for the most was freedom from responsibility, that's when Athens ceased to be free and was never free again. The once global economic power, the United States of America, is on the verge of decline. We do not have to want its downfall or its decline. It will happen on its own accord. As historian C. Dallas Burns, he wrote in his book, Why Rome Fell. He said a great number of people, the Romans, they were actually unwilling to make the effort required to maintain or sustain the old regime or the old order, not because they were not good enough to fulfill their civic duties, but because they were too good to be satisfied with a system from which so few derive benefit. Currently, we live in societies that are very unequal. We have a global economic system from which only a few are benefiting from, and in disproportionate amounts. The richest 1% own almost half of the world's wealth. That is, 81 billionaires, they have more wealth than 50% of the world combined. Now, that may be one of the reasons why our unequal societies are self-destroying. Rome fell for the same reason, because only a few were benefiting from the system. Now, at an individual level, what is the psychological explanation for self-destruction? Sigmund Freud, he called it the death drive, thanatos. It is the tendency inherent in all living beings to fluctuate between states of being. We return to an inorganic state of being after staying in an organic state. It is necessary for us, or even for nature, to return to calm after a period of chaos. In life, there is dying, and then there's birth in our human existence. Now, Freud's theory, it states that the death instinct, it leads an organism to seek activities that eventually causes its demise. Freud's theories, it says that all instincts, they fit into two classes. He calls it the life drive and the death drive. Now, what would Carl Jung think about it? He said, opposites are the indispensable preconditions of all psychic life. Opposites coexist in us, and it determines the universal laws. A physics theory called the Big Bounce, it proposes that the universe, it could collapse to the state where it began, and then initiate another Big Bang. So in this way, the universe would last forever, but could pass through the phases, but it would pass through the phases of expansion, called the Big Bang, and contraction, called the Big Crunch. If some situations in our life is not working for us, and if our conscious mind is not prepared to deal with it at the moment, our subconscious mind actually often takes over and becomes aware of it, and it actually, at the very subconscious level, it plans its destruction. It plans the destruction of what is not working for us. So that is why sometimes we do things that we never quite understood why we did it. It's only later on that we discover that it was often in our favor. Throughout human history, we've lived through crises. There had been periods of calm, then there were periods of chaos. So the challenges and the crises that we are facing today are not unique. Many of the periods of calm, chaos has happened before. Only what we are experiencing now is different in form and intensity. And what is also particularly challenging now at this moment is that we are at the cusp of two opposing forces, the old and the new paradigms of thinking, the old and the new paradigms of leadership and leading. We are having to navigate between the two, and that is what we are struggling with as societies. So we need to be able to recognize the nature of these two forces. Now, quite a few people are having the courage to question existence and wake up to the new and wake up from the old. And they're open to exploring what wants to emerge in the future. However, there's still a great many people who are holding on to the old, mostly out of fear. They do not want to let go of all beliefs and ideas that once were instrumental in shaping our societies. To summarize, our societies are self-destroying, and clearly from within. They are self-destructing themselves because we live in societies at a local, national, or global level that are only benefiting a few, be it our social, economic, political, and education system. That was the cause of the decline of Rome. Number two, many of us, we live in societies where, as a people, we don't want to give to society. Rather, we are wanting society to give to us. Now, that was the cause of Athens' decline. Democratic power and politics don't define a society. True power of a society can be found in the attitudes and actions of people. In other words, true power can be found in the collective mindset and behaviors and actions of people. Now, true power or collective power can only come about through a reconnection with, in our relationships with others, in our relationship with nature, and reconnecting with who we are at a fundamental level. It's then we will thrive as societies. Our societies will be resurrected and we will re-emerge as a compassionate and caring humanity.